Good evening, everybody. Welcome to tonight's City Plan Commission meeting. Roll call, please.
Rosendich? Here. Caprillion? Here. Wood? Here. Banker? Here. Banks? And Mayor McManus.
Here.
And Akanik is absent tonight.
Thank you very much. Is there item number 3, a motion to approve the minutes of the December 15, 2020 meeting? Motion by Mrs. Bank. There's a second. Second by Mr. Rosendich. Any discussion? Please, Mr. Wood. Mr. Wood, you said, did you have discussion? You said, okay. All right. Seeing no discussion then, please, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries unanimous. Item number 4, citizen comments. Anyone from the public wish to address the commission? Seeing no one, we'll close the citizens' comments. We'll go on to item number 5, conditional use request by Dwayne Migliore to allow for the exception to exceed the maximum residential accessory building square footage limit with the total area exceeding 1,200 square feet and the footprint of the first floor area of the home to allow an exception to the maximum detached accessory building height located at 314 Magnolia Drive, parcel 33-07185, zoned SR3 single family residential. Presenter, Emmett Simkowski, associate planner.
Thank you, Mayor. The property in question is located on the west side of the city. The general area is pretty much all zoned SR3 single family residential. The area is comprised of larger, newer single family dwellings. Next slide, Josh. The proposed structure is a 1,300 square foot, 26 by 50 detached garage at 22 feet high. The structure includes a bathroom, heat, and an upper loft area. The upper loft area is not to be used as a dwelling unit. The exterior of the garage will be similar to the house itself. The front of the house will have a stucco finish, or the front of the garage will have a stucco finish, and the rear and the sides will have a traditional vinyl finish. Next slide. The garage is proposed to be 16 feet south of the north property line, the side yard, where 3 feet is required. It's proposed to be 27 feet west of the rear property line, where 5 feet is required. And it'll be approximately 80 feet from the right-of-way of Magnolia, where 25 feet is required. With the exception of the principal structure on the subject parcel, the nearest principal structure is over 100 feet away from this structure. The proposed structure will meet all zoning requirements with the exception of the size and height requirements. It'll be meeting all setbacks, and with the proposed garage on there, the building coverage will be at 14.8%, where 30% is the maximum required. Section 18-65-8H allows for an exception to exceed the floor area and height as a conditional use for residential accessory structures. With this additional 1,300 square foot garage, the property will be exceeding allowed amount of 1,200 square feet by 876 and a total square footage of 2,076 square feet. The department has heard from neighbors with concerns on the size of the structure, increasing the amount of runoff leaving the site. We have notified the Uniform Dwelling Code Inspector of these concerns, and city staff will work with the property owner and builder in making sure that the water is drained appropriately and it's contained and leaving the site towards the ditch. Next slide. Staff recommends to approve the request by Dwayne Migliore to allow for exceptions to the area and height requirements for residential accessory structures with the following conditions. Minor site plan changes may be approved administratively, provided they do not need additional exceptions from the zoning code or from any conditions approved with this conditional use permit. The property is permitted to have a total of 2,076 square feet of accessory space, and the garage to have a maximum height of 22 feet. The structure shall not be used as a dwelling unit consistent with Chapter 18-51(3), unless future amendments to the zoning code allow for it. That's all I have.
All right, thank you very much. This item does require a public hearing. At this time, I'll open up the floor to members of the public who wish to address the commission regarding this request. Anyone from the public wish to address the commission? Second call, anyone from the public? Final call, anyone wish to address the public? Seeing no one, the public hearing is closed. We'll entertain a motion to approve from the commission. Motion by Mr. Wood. Is there a second by Mr. Pinker? Any discussion? Mr. Rosendich.
I did have a constituent reach out to me yesterday with those very concerns about the runoff. What are the placeholders to make sure the runoff will go towards the road or the ditch?
Like you use downspouts and you run it. The garage is located on a hill and it slopes down all directions. So if you slope it down to the front of the house, then it would run onto the ditch, and then there is storm sewer inlets over there.
Okay. Thank you.
Any further discussion? Mr. Penker?
Thank you. I've got four concerns here. One, which I have mentioned repeatedly in the past when we've had some of the larger accessory structures. We're seeing placed on this lot a structure which is as large or larger than some of the houses in Marshfield already. Looking at the map that Emmett provided us with the aerial view, it's obvious that a structure of this size is not compatible with the other structures and the properties which are noted on Emmett's map. Given the size of the structure and relating back to some citizen complaints about something that was proposed east of Sycamore, though it's not of the same type of structure, it nonetheless, in a generic sense, fits into the size that his neighbors were objecting to at a much greater distance. And my last concern is in Emmett's report, he mentions 3 times dwelling unit and is not to be used as a dwelling unit. So I must ask, what is the actual purpose? And is there any future purpose for living space should the zoning code be changed?
When talking to Dwayne, he expressed to me that it's just going to be like a recreation area where people could simply sit in the garage. He does have a lot of vehicles and stuff that's sitting outside right now, and they did like to work on them and everything too. I made it pretty clear that it was not to be disturbed. Nobody's going to be sleeping there. Nobody's going to be staying there. If anything, it's a rec room purposes. Unless if Dwayne has something he'd like to add.
Sir, if you can go to the microphone.
Mr. Mayor and public in general. Yeah, this is an area where all my neighbors have acquired 2 lots, and the houses are about the same size, if not larger, than my house. And currently the house came with only a 2-car garage. I've lived in that house since I built it in 2003. And over the years, obviously, the accumulation of personal items, including lawnmowers and cars and cycles, definitely I need more room, even for the good-looking area of the neighborhood. And like to go ahead with this building. The current city allowance of extra garage size, is pretty small. And I've seen most of my neighbors came already with bigger garages. Probably I didn't plan properly when I built the house. My intent right now is just to have a nice garage with, some tools to store in there, and yard equipment and extra cars and cycles, a trailer. Since we are going through the expense of this construction, I foresee planning on putting a little attic in the upper area for recreational purposes, playroom, foosball, cards, table, things like that. It does not have the intent of accommodating anybody living in there. Although I thought having a bathroom to take a shower, after you work on the garage and things like that would be appropriate. and have some water source in there. Definitely we'll work with the constructor to make sure the drainage it doesn't affect my neighbors, and if necessary, we'll build some extra underground piping to make sure the water drains properly. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further questions from the commission? Seeing no further questions, then should we do a roll call or just roll call, please?
Rosendich,
Yes.
Caprillion,
Yes.
Wood, Banker, Banks, Mayor McManus.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. That motion carries. Item 6, conditional use request by Tim Breland to allow for off-site parking and request an exception to 18-106D regarding the orientation of the finished side of a fence located at 800 North Maple Avenue, parcel 33-02037. Subject property is currently zoned SR4, single-family residential, but is in the process of being rezoned to UMU urban mixed use. Presenter Emmett Simkowski, Associate Planner.
Thank you, Mayor. This request is part of a proposed certified survey map and recently had a zoning map amendment or rezoning approved last week by Common Council. This property is located just east of the intersection of Grant and North Central and west of Maple and Grant, just west of the property located at 800 North Maple. This is the proposed CSM that the surveyor was going through that we're waiting to get recorded for this. They're cutting off the parking lot that is associated with Dairy Queen. It is the west 30 feet of the parcel located at 800 North Maple. In 2015, the parking lot was approved, but it was looked at as an on-site parking lot. Currently now with the rezoning and it's splitting off from that parcel, it is considered off-site, and within the UMU, this would be a conditional use. These pictures currently show what the parking lot looks like right now. It is not to be changed at all from what it looks like here. There is no landscape or buffer yards between the fence and the parking lot. However, there are fences screening all the properties surrounding this parking lot. To note, the picture of the fence is on the proposed outlot, and the unfinished side is facing the neighboring parcel. But this use will remain as it has been, and no future development is anticipated. An outlot is not developable with any structures. The use will be sitting as a parking lot or a driveway or such. If this conditional use is denied, the zoning would be repealed back to SR4, and the certified survey map would not be recorded. Because the orientation of the finished side of the fence is not facing the neighbor's property line, the Plan Commission may grant an exception to the orientation of the fence for section 18-1063C. And the applicant would like to request this so they don't have to turn the fence around. Staff did reach out to neighboring property owner regarding buffer yards and screening. We received a letter from the owner stating no additional buffer yards were requested. Section 18-1365 allows an abutting property owner to waive the buffer yard requirements on that property line. The reason we went and did that, if the parking lot was approved as an off-site back in 2015, buffer yards would have been required, and this would have been something that they could have waived. Next slide. Staffs recommend to approve the conditional use to allow for off-site parking and request an exception to 18-106D regarding the orientation of the finished side of a fence zoned UMU urban mixed use with the following conditions. Minor site changes may be administratively approved as long as the changes do not result in a development becoming non-compliant with this conditional use permit and or other code requirements. An agreement with the neighbors shall be recorded with the Wood County Register of Deeds, waiving the landscaping requirement for the north property line of the outlot. The existing fence on the east property line of the outlot shall be permitted to have the unfinished side oriented towards the east neighbor's property line.
Thank you very much. This item does require a public hearing. At this time, I'll open up the floor to members of the public who wish to address the commission regarding this request. Anyone from the public wish to address the commission? Second call, anyone from the public? Final call, anyone from the public wish to address the commission? Seeing no one, we will close the public hearing and look for a motion to approve from the commission. Motion by Mr. Pinker, second by Mr. Rosendich. Any discussion? Seeing no discussion, roll call vote, please.
Rosenbich,
Yes.
Caprillion. Wood. Pinker. Yes. Banks. Mayor McManus.
Yes.
Motion carried.
Thank you very much. Item 7, municipal code amendment request by the city of Marshfield to add sections 18-116, building relocation to the municipal code. These regulations pertain to moving buildings within the city limits of Marshfield. These regulations were previously part of Chapter 15 and are proposed to be modified and incorporated into Chapter 18. Presenter Bryce Hembrook, City Planner.
Thank you, Mayor. So as the mayor mentioned, the regulations on moving structures within the city limits were located in the building code, which is Chapter 15 until January 1st. After some discussion with various staff members, it was decided that these regulations are better suited in the zoning code. There are some minor changes that were made to the regulations, but the majority of the regulations remain the same as they were in Chapter 15. I'll quickly go over what's typically required. So anytime a building is moving from one location to another location, when either the origin and or the destination is within the city limits, will require the following. 1, a moving permit. 2, common council approval and a public hearing, a building inspection, and a site plan review. I do want to make a note that in the staff report, I wrote that the site plan review would also be reviewed by the Plan Commission. I accidentally wrote that. It should just be the Common Council. There are several exceptions for when moving a permit, or for when a moving permit or Common Council approval is not required. Those exceptions include manufactured / mobile homes being relocated within the same mobile home park or subdivision, new modular or manufactured homes that are already certified, pre-manufactured sheds and small garages that are 14 feet in width or less. And then there are some more exceptions listed in the staff report, but the ones that I just went over are probably the ones that are most common that we will see. Also, since the writing of the staff report, we have also talked with the Public Works Director, and he recommended to add that the city forester should review plans and the proposed route along with the city engineer to determine that the route won't cause any issues with trees. And so with that, we will look to recommend to approve the municipal code amendment request by the city of Marshfield to add section 18-116, building relocation, and to direct staff to prepare an ordinance for common council consideration. Thank you.
Thank you, Bryce. This item does require a public hearing. At this time, we will open up the floor to members of the public who wish to address their concerns to the commission. Anyone from the public wish to address the commission? Second call, anyone from the public? Final call, anyone from the public wish to address the commission? Seeing none, we'll close the public hearing. Entertain a motion to approve. A motion by Mr. Pinker, second by Mr. Caprillion. Any discussion? Mr. Pinker.
I have just one question. Are the fees and bond amounts listed in the proposed ordinance compatible with our neighbors, such as Wisconsin Rapids, Stevens Point?
That's a good question. I don't think we did check on that. This was just kind of a carryover from, Chapter 15. So we could certainly look into that and bring that back to the council.
Any further discussion? Seeing no further discussion, roll call vote, please.
Rosenbich,
Yes.
Caprillion. Wood. Pinker. Banks. Mayor McManus.
Yes.
Motion carried.
Thank you. Item 8, public hearing regarding the proposed amendment of boundaries and project plan for tax incremental district number 7. See the public hearing notice, which was published on January 5th. Presenter David Ferris with Ellers.
And I'm just going to
Thank you very much. Oh, go ahead.
I'm just going to pull up the project plan and then we can get started.
I can probably start rolling with the joint review board discussion though.
Sounds good.
Thank you for letting me be here tonight. Earlier today, we held the organizational meeting for the joint review board to kind of introduce them to the project plan for TID number 7 and TID number 12. I'll just concentrate on 7 first here. Really the Joint Review Board didn't have a lot of questions. They had some questions about the lot that's being subtracted that is being proposed to be added to TID 12 and the purpose in doing that. And I think Josh will get into that when we get into TID 12 a little more. And also there was just a discussion as to, some of the wetlands and storm ponds that are related to that parcel that would be brought in. And there was a concern on whether that was something that was good or bad, and it really didn't have any bearing on what was happening. So good questions from there. As far as the what we talked to them about doing, they have a job that they need to do. They need to review the public record, which is being produced as we speak right now. The Planning Commission obviously will have minutes and recommendations, as well as the City Council. They will take what is recommended by the Planning Commission and the City Council and consider whether or not they agree that TIF for using TIF and TIF 7's subtraction is something that is necessary. And really for TID 7, we aren't really asking for any more projects. It's just reducing the parcels in TID 7 so that they can be used to develop in a new TID that you're hearing about tonight as well as a few parcels that may be used in another TID in the future. So really there isn't anything to talk about with the but for, because the Joint Review Board had already determined that TID 7 was good, and there really isn't anything with economic benefits because we're just subtracting off parcels that have really no value. So I will turn it over to Josh. He's just going to give you kind of an update on what this TID 7 amendment is about.
Thank you, Dave. We haven't done a lot of TIF stuff here. So if there's any questions when we get to the resolution, feel free to ask. It's a complex process, but the primary purpose of it is to allow the city to provide funding for new development, primarily industrial in this area, both dealing with infrastructure costs as well as possible developer incentives. So it's a funding mechanism. By adopting these plans tonight, we're not committing any money at all. It allows future expenditures when projects come around. So just wanted to clarify that. So TID 7, just a little bit of a background, is our primary industrial district. It's the Yellowstone Industrial District and the Norwood Industrial District on the east side of town. So that's where the PCA is, Innovative Machine, Quality Tank Solutions. So a lot of our great local businesses are located here. Really, we're running out of heavy industrial land in the community. So we really need to expand our industrial park. PCA was a large tract. That was kind of our last big piece of heavy industrial land. We do have other light industrial, like in the Mill Creek Business Park, but that's more of a business park type setting. We also have some light industrial land near the South Quick Trip. But again, it's not as vast. So if you ever had a business come in here and they wanted 40 acres of land, we couldn't suit them right now. We wouldn't be able to be competitive or bring them in. So that's a challenge. Obviously, we don't want to be at a competitive disadvantage with other communities, and we want to be able to attract businesses. So one of the first steps is to carve out TID 7. TID 7 was created in 2001, and it had a little bit of a slow start to it. So it was by 2011, the city declared it a distress TIF, meaning that we had spent more money than we looked like it was going to pay back because development wasn't happening or was happening too slowly. And so we created a distress TIF that allowed us to extend the life of the TIF, but still kept the same expenditure period. So you can only make expenditures within the first, I think it's 18 years of an industrial TIF. And so the expenditure period ended in May of 2019. And so now we've got some vacant land in the industrial park, and we can't spend any money. We can't invite people to come in here. We can't provide incentives. We can't do more infrastructure because the expenditure period is over. So staff and the Economic Development Board, we took a look at the map and we said, okay, how can we make this better? How can we utilize and still incentivize some of the existing vacant parcels? So the two parcels on the top, on the north part of this map, are privately owned. That's part of the Norwood Industrial Park. We decided those are vacant. Those could be carved out and added to another TIF. If a TIF was established from the west side, and there's opportunities to do that we're looking into. A piece on the southwest corner, that's a piece that the city owns. There's a couple outbuildings there, but it could certainly be prime for future development. And then the big 47-acre piece on the right side there's about 17 acres of developable land there. It's already served by sanitary sewer, water, electric, and streets. So, I mean, it's already developable, but in order to attract people, we need to be able to provide incentives. So we're proposing to carve out this big piece on the east and then eventually add that to 12. And as David mentioned, the pieces that we're looking to carve out really has little impact on the TIF district itself. It has really low value, so you're not really affecting the base value of the district. The life of the district goes through 2034, but it can close earlier if all the debts are paid. And we anticipate, based on existing revenue, an increment that the district will close in 2028. So that would happen whether or not we do this or not. That's projected. Now, things can change, but for the most part, even under a worst case scenario, we've got a buffer period in case it doesn't close in 2028. We got 6 more years to make the payments. So when that TIF district closes, then right now the city collects all the taxes. Typically the tax rate is about $25 per thousand on value. The city collects those taxes get distributed to the city, the school district, the county, and the technical school. And when we create a TIF district, any new increment is all the taxes are collected by the city, and then they can use that for expenditures in the district. So, and we can also use it for expenditures within a half mile of the district, and I'll talk about that in two. So, just wanted to give that background. We're proposing to remove 4 parcels totaling about 63.5 acres. We don't have any anticipated project costs. This is really a precursor to adding the big parcel to TID 12, and then also making some of these other parcels available to attach to another TIF. So that's all I have. But and Dave, I guess, do you have anything else to add?
Did you want to just have me briefly go through the schedule so that they know what they're about?
Yes, please. That'd be good.
Do you want to do that?
Did you have this on the screen? Because I don't see it.
Oh, I'm sorry. The map. I'm sorry. I just forgot to share. Nobody said anything. My apologies. I was talking about a map that nobody could see, so I'm sorry about that.
Yeah, why don't you go down to page 17?
Mayor, did you have something?
No.
Okay.
So this is the schedule that kind of summarizes the value of TID number 7 from, it takes everything prior to 18 and then what happened in 19. And this is the value that is certified by the Department of Revenue for this TID is about $34 million. Down at the bottom, it talks about how much value would come out of the district because of the subtraction. So really, there's only $5,638 of value that's going to come out by this subtraction. And I think when we calculated it out, that ended up being like $100 a year of increment that we lose. So it's really minimal. You want to go to the next schedule? And this is, Josh already kind of talked about this, but this is where we actually have the increment value or increment tax rate is really about $23, which is how you calculate TIF increment. And so on that $33 million of value, we're getting about $780,000 of increment. And over the period of 2020 through 2034, it's about $11 million. And then if you want to just go on to the cash flow schedule. So that 11 million translates into the left side under tax increments. That's basically the funding source for debt payments, some incentives, some administration. And so as you can see, as Josh talked about earlier, that yellow box to the right is the year that we anticipate closure based on collecting that $700,000 to $800,000 and paying off. We'll have enough money in the bank or basically available to pay off the rest of those obligations that we have in debt financing.
Anything further?
Nope.
All right, with that, this item does require a public hearing. At this time, I'll open up the floor to members of the public who wish to address the commission regarding this request. Anyone from the public wish to address the commission? Second call, final call, anyone from the public wish to address the commission? Please. Yeah, please go to the podium and state your name and address. Name and address.
Tanya Schlagenoff, am I street address?
Yeah.
20637 Saunders Drive, Spencer. I just have, this is just a question, I guess, when you say it closed out and it didn't in 2019.
Josh.
Yeah, this is for Josh.
Sure.
You're saying the one closed out in 2019 and didn't, and maybe I'm not stating this right, and didn't have total, I guess they didn't sell out?
So in 2019, the expenditure period ended on the TIF. So
Yep.
what that basically means is the city, other than administrative and financing costs, we can't incur any more project costs related to the TIF.
Okay,
So basically then it just says, through the life of the TIF, you got to pay off your debt. You can't incur any more costs. So that project costs, expenditure period ended in May of 2019.
so then what happens to all the, like you're talking about, and you're showing all the numbers, what happens to all that debt and when it closes off and you don't have all that? And
So
maybe I'm not understanding. the
No,
whole-
that's okay. The district didn't close. It's just we can no longer spend it. The district is still open and can remain open until 2034. So the district continues to collect the revenue from the taxes.
Yep,
So they could collect it until the debts are paid. And we project that to happen in 2028.
okay,
So the district isn't closed. It's still operating. We're taking advantage of an opportunity that these properties haven't developed. In order to provide incentives to a company, it has to pass what's called a but-for test, meaning that if the incentives weren't there or the district wasn't there, the development wouldn't happen. So we're assuming that because we can't provide any incentive, the development is unlikely to occur. So we're able to carve that out and add at least a big piece on the east side to hopefully to a future TIF. And then that land can be part of the new TIF and we can provide incentives and infrastructure for that land.
okay. Sorry, I'm just educating.
Josh, just to add on to that.
Yep.
The other thing that would make those incentives important to be in the new TIF is that you're running out of the number of years where the value on that developed property would actually provide enough revenue to actually pay an incentive. So this actually starts the clock over so that a developer could actually receive incentives for the period that they would need.
Thanks.
All right.
Sorry if I.
Thank you very much. All right, seeing that, we'll close that public hearing and we will go on to item number 9. Public hearing regarding the proposed project plan, boundaries and creation of tax increment district number 12. See the public hearing notice, which was published on January 5th, 2021 and January 12th, 2021. Presenter David Ferris.
So the Joint Review Board actually had quite a few questions regarding the TID 12 creation. The county was kind of curious about whether we had any development maybe in the pipeline. Had we been talking to any developers that would, maybe cause us to need this TID created. As Josh has talked about, you're running out of industrial land to actually have available to any developer that comes around. And if you don't have something that's at least set up, you may lose out on the ability to capture that developer. So that was the big item on that. The technical college was more interested in the ag land that's included in TID 12. Was curious of when we would start to use that for industrial purposes, or if there's any land that was available anywhere else in the city that they could go to. From the city of Marshfield, I think the concern there was, would we be spending a lot of money up front right away? And I think the answer to that is no, that there's some upfront costs that we have to do with maybe some land purchase and the creation of the district, delineation of the water, the wetlands. So I think Josh will go into that a little bit more. And then the citizen member was also concerned about, are we going to actually borrow a lot of money right away? But I think what you'll hear from this project plan is that the pace of development will actually dictate when we borrow and do those projects. So unless we have somebody that's ready to commit to buying a property and developing it, that we aren't going to load up our costs up front, that it'll come as we go. So that was kind of the concerns and questions that were brought up. Very good questions out of the Joint Review Board, more than I usually get on the initial one. So as far as the project plan, once again, they have to kind of weigh in on whether they think TIF is necessary. In this case, really to get the industrial park gets paid for some of the infrastructure that will go into the new park. The but-for says that there really isn't any way to get those in there without, in the time frame that the city may want them in and the values you may want them in. And so really the but-for is that without TIF, that some of these parcels would not develop in a timely manner or in the way that the city would want it to. The second item would be the economic benefits, and really what the expectation is for this property is that once it develops, it'll create additional employment opportunities, maybe bring more people to the city, could drive some housing needs, as well as some of the construction that could be done in this park to get it ready, or some of the construction to put in the development may warrant the use of local providers to do that construction. So that's some of the items that go along with that part of it. So I think I'll turn it over to Josh to give you the overview of some of the details behind the project plan at this point.
Thank you, Dave, and I'll share my map this time. So this is the proposed TID 12 that's before you, and it includes 6 parcels, 4 of which are currently primarily agricultural land. It's the Ag Research Farm, the UW Ag Research Farm. The 5th parcel is just north of Yellowstone Drive. That's the actual Ag Research facility itself. And then the last parcel is the city-owned parcel to the south, and that's the larger piece that we'd be carving out of TID 7. The city had, and I covered a lot of this in my staff report, so I'll touch kind of high level, but the city had the foresight back in 2001 or 2002 to purchase an option on this property, most of the agricultural land, excluding the Ag Research facility itself, but the ag land, with the intent to expand the future industrial park. So, which is a great foresight. That was, 19 years ago. And so we purchased the option, and the option is expiring a year from now. So and plus we're running out of agricultural land, so the timing worked pretty well. It's approximately 124 acres of land. There are some wetlands, especially on the northeast corner of the property. And so there are little pockets of wetlands throughout that we'll have to deal with as development occurs. Some of the project costs, so touch on that. Or I guess I touched on the current uses a little bit. The project costs, go up there. Some of the improvements that are being proposed, obviously we want to be able to provide incentives. So we have a dollar amount in the project plan for incentives. We also include some infrastructure. So if we have to put a road in, so if let's say we get a big company coming in and they're 100 acres and they want to build it, we probably wouldn't have to have any roads, but more than likely that's not going to happen. So we want to be able to prepare to be able to put in infrastructure, the sewer, water, electrical, gas, that kind of stuff, into the industrial park. And so we don't know exactly where those roads will go. It depends on what the needs are for the industrial development that comes. So this is kind of a graph showing where most likely the roads would go as they'd come off of Yellowstone and then connect back up the 22nd Street. But those could deviate depending on what the needs are. We also show an extension of rail service coming off of where PCA put their line in a couple of years ago. That line could continue east to serve additional businesses. We also are looking at, we did reserve a strip on the south side here that would eventually could be a future rail spur for additional businesses to the south. More than likely, not all of that's going to happen. So we did have some project costs in here that we had to put down estimates, and we wanted to put a dollar amount in there so we can give some realistic idea of what could be spent. And same with the incentives. We also have a stormwater pond and such. So, we also included incentives. And as David mentioned, years ago, 20 some years ago, when we did the Mill Creek Business Park, we put all the infrastructure in, and had that all planned out and ready to go. And it took a long time to develop. And the city had a lot of debt and a lot of investment in that. And right now, we're not in a position to do that. We don't foresee having to do that or wanting to do that. And really, we'd be looking at, as development occurs, that's when we could make those investments, and we could either extend infrastructure or provide incentives. And historically, the city has provided incentives in when you sign a development agreement, and you've got basically 3 phases. So once they start the foundation, they get a payment. Once they finish the building, they get a payment. And once they finished all the site work and driveway and stuff, they get a payment. Well, all the payment would be out of the city's hands for any tax revenues collected. And so that puts the city at a little bit of a risk. We don't know what the value of the building would be. In this case, we could provide some incentives up front possibly, but more likely our push is to do more of a pay-as-you-go. So we could provide incentives as the business develops and as the business pays taxes. So we wouldn't have to pay it up front, and it would be less of a risk to the city. We can ensure that the value is created. We wouldn't have to go back after the fact to try to collect if they fall short of their minimum assessed value, we'd be able to do that up front. So we had about $6,750,000 of possible incentives, but obviously if businesses don't come, we're not spending that money. The primary upfront costs that we have would be the wetland delineation, the cost to create the district, the project plans and stuff, and then the land acquisition. What was done with the option to purchase, the city put $250,000 deposit down or to acquire that option. So we already have money into this. And if we don't exercise the option in a year, we lose that. So there's it's a timely thing to do that, and we wouldn't want to waste that money if we can. So, we have the opportunity to acquire the land. So there'd be additional land costs to pay the difference, whatever the appraised value is of the land minus the deposit. The city would have to pay that up front to get that going. But, in the initial project, we could see developing that south piece along Yellowstone Drive. That already has the infrastructure, so we'd have very little upfront cost, and we could develop that. And those could be kind of a starter project for us to get some increment going that could help us feed doing additional infrastructure through the rest of the TIF. One thing we didn't have on here that I wanted to mention is, because we kind of discovered this later after the project plan was out to the Joint Review Board, we would look at adding about $50,000 in wetland remediation costs. So then we could kind of either mitigate or modify wetlands as needed to allow for entry, obviously through DNR approval process as well. So we had a wetland delineation years ago. And it seems like there's some additional wetlands that are probably possibly man-made wetlands as we, added the rail spur and things like that can be handled differently. So, but for the most part, it's an agricultural property that seems to be suited, and we've been planning for it for agricultural for some time. So looking at the planning documents, the comprehensive plan, it doesn't touch a lot on TIF as far as, a lot of detail, but it provides some things to review. And it says when you're creating a TIF, but in reality, a lot of these checklists that it had were really when you're reviewing an actual development project and going into a development agreement. So essentially, but it encourages the use of TIF. Same with the Economic Development Action Plan. Really, it's a diverse tool that should be, re-examined on a regular basis for ways to utilize its power and scope more creatively in Marshfield. And I think we can do that, and we can do that with the pay-as-you-go thing. And the city doesn't have to provide all the funding necessarily up front. You can borrow with the CDA. The Economic Development Board can provide funding up front. There's different creative ways to use it, and you can borrow for it as well. The one component that's not, still out there is the Plan Commission reviewed the sewer service area plan back in November, and we don't have that back yet. Some of this area is not within that sewer service area plan yet. We anticipate, in talking to Dan, who's gone through a number of those, we don't see any concerns with that being part of the sewer service area plan. If for whatever reason the DNR denied that plan, we would have another opportunity to do a type 1 amendment, which is a land swap, And we've got plenty of, room elsewhere that's not being served that we could put this land into the sewer service area boundary. So, ideally, we'd have all that done and stuff in the right process, but, that's just, the DNR takes a little while to review that. So the next steps would be to rezone this property before the final council act. Right now, it's RH35, the properties to the north. But then we'd be looking to rezone to the general industrial district. And that would match with the future land use plan is shown as general industrial. So it makes sense for the rezoning. I think I covered everything. Dave, do you want to go through the financials?
Sure. So the first, that page that you're on right there. So staff came up with kind of, and we worked with them to kind of come up with what we would need for value to be able to cover the project costs that are identified. So I believe that over the last 4 or 5 years that PID 7 has had about $5 million of development each year. Staff wanted to be a little more conservative and had that broken out every other year. Obviously, it could come in faster, or it could come in slower. But we'll hope for good. If we get a developer in soon, that might key that development. Maybe we get it going faster. So this is the development that we need to basically cover if we did every improvement that's in the project plan. And as we talked about it, we're only doing those projects if we have that development show up. So on the next page is really how we take that needed value and determine how much increment can be generated from that. Just like the last one, we start slow. When you construct something, it's 2 years before you actually see the revenue. So you can see, just to show you how to read this, the construction year is 21. First time you see revenue is 23. So if everything were to develop as we have it in here, which obviously is a crystal ball, you could potentially have about $13 million in development, which is at the bottom of the orange column and row. That translates on to, let's just go to the cash flow, because the borrowings really, let's go to the next one. The borrowings are really dependent upon the development. But so if we actually have the development that we need and we get the $13 million, that enables us to do those projects. You can see that there's borrowings on here that would be done whenever that development occurs to pay for those projects that need to be done to put the infrastructure in, or potentially to do incentives. You want to scroll to the next page. And so when you get over to the edge, you have a little bit of administration after you've got your project costs and some professional services. And really what we have is a successful district. So here's the big if development occurs as we show it here, and if all the projects are done, that this district could potentially close in 2038. I think I've said it enough times, but you're not going to put the costs into it unless you have the development. So, we're going to keep an eye on being financially responsible and not drive up a bunch of debt without that development being there. I think, as Josh talked about, there's lessons learned from the past where we're trying to put the risk a little more on the developer potentially, or we're just going to make sure that we only have in place what we need to help that development occur. You want to add anything to that, Josh?
No, just that, we do want to have some flexibility. So the intent would be to do a pay-as-you-go. But as we talk at staff, there might be a need where we really feel it's necessary to do some more upfront development or upfront payment of incentives. So we would have some options. We're not tied to that, but our general direction from a city standpoint is we really prefer to do pay-as-you-go. And as we've had recent conversations with some developers, that's not preferred. They'd like their money up front, but for the most part, they feel that they can work with that from what we've talked about. So we'll continue to push that because we think that's the smartest, most financially responsible thing to do.
Right.
And just to add on to that, Josh, you've got two sides of the coin. You've got where the city used to put everything in and took all the risk on. And if you can get to at least a pay-as-you-go or maybe a hybrid, maybe there's a way that the city doesn't have that risk. And the only way that the developer gets the incentives if they put the value in the ground and generate the taxes that would generate that incentive to pay for whatever improvements they put in.
All right. Thank you very much. This item does require a public hearing. At this time, I'll open up the floor to members of the public who wish to address the commission regarding this project plan. Anyone from the public wish to address the commission? Second call. Final call. Anyone from the public wish to address the commission? Seeing no one, we will close the public hearing. We'll move on to item number 10. Resolution number PC 2021-01, consideration and possible action on resolution designating proposed amended boundaries and approving a project plan amendment for tax incremental district number 7, City of Marshfield, Wisconsin. Presenter David Ferris.
So the first resolution is really saying that the planning commission would consider amending the boundaries and improving the project plan for the amendment. Basically, the resolution says that everything that is necessary to be in the project plan is in there. The one thing that is not in there at this point and will be in there if you move this to the city council is that the city attorney, the attorney needs to have an opinion on this as whether the project plan is complete and complies with the statutes. So I would say at a minimum, if you decide to move this forward, that you would approve this contingent upon that city attorney opinion for the city council meeting. The other thing that Josh talked about is I would think it'd be appropriate if you're interested in doing so to allow the plan to be amended by $50,000, which we would do and bring to the council if you move this forward. Do you have anything you want to add to that, Josh?
No, but I think you covered it well. Thanks.
All right. With that, then, is there a motion to approve the resolution number PC 2021-01 for TID number 7? Motion to approve. Motion by Mr. Wood, second by Mr. Rosendich. Any discussion? All right. Seeing no discussion, please vote.
Rosendich,
Yes.
Caprillion,
Yes.
Wood, Pinker, Banks, and Mayor McManus.
Yes. Thank you. That motion it carries. Item 11, resolution number PC 2021-02, consideration and possible action on resolution designating proposed boundaries and approving a project plan for taxing incremental district number 12, City of Marshfield, Wisconsin. Presenter David Ferris.
I think I got a little ahead of myself with the $50,000. Josh, you didn't tell me that one. The $50,000 that we would add to the project plan would be TID 12. So forgive me for that one. And I don't know that I heard that you added that to the motion or not, but that would be towards the TID 12. So same thing with TID 12. Basically, it says that you have the, you're going to use TIF to promote development and redevelopment. And that the project plan includes all the things that are necessary under the statute. The one thing would be, once again, that the city attorney would be contingent upon the city attorney. I think that pretty much wraps it up, other than what we talked about with the $50,000.
And the 50,000 is for?
That'd be for what? Wetland remediation?
Wetland, yeah.
No, we voted on TID 7, which has nothing to do with that. This one would be.
Yeah, I apologize for that.
No, that's okay.
I got ahead of myself.
Wetland what?
So wetland remediation.
Okay.
And that would
And
be.
the city attorney. Okay.
Yep. So that would be that's the staff's recommendation. We didn't.
So is that in your staff recommendation, or do they need a?
It wasn't. I'm adding it for this discussion, if I can, adding $50,000 for wetland remediation along with the other condition of
The city attorney.
That would be staff recommendation.
Okay. All right. Is there a motion then to approve PC 2021-02 with the addition of approval by the city attorney and $50,000 for wetland remediation? Motion by Mrs. Banks, second by Mr. Caprillion. Any discussion? Seeing no discussion, roll call vote, please.
Rosendich,
Yes.
Caprillion,
Yes.
Wood, Pinker, Banks, and Mayor McManus.
Yes, thank you. That motion carries. Thank you, Mr. Ferris.
Thank you.
Item number 12, alternative sign request by Stratford Sign to allow for 2 freestanding signs on an individual parcel for the Vandahay Waters Aquatic Center located at 1900 South Central Avenue, parcel 33-03530A, zone CMU, commercial mixed use. Presenter Emmett Simkowski.
Thank you, Mayor. Since the start of the construction of the Vandahay Waters project, Stratford Sign has contacted our department regarding sign permitting. The proposal is 1 monument sign on the south central frontage, a wall sign on the parking lot side of the building, and a smaller posted panel sign on Roddus. Seeing the sign code only allows 1 freestanding sign per parcel, we're requesting alternative sign permit to allow 2 freestanding signs. The proposed monument sign is internally illuminated. It'll be 9 feet tall, 8.5 feet wide, with a total sign face of 40 square feet. The sign will be located 7.5 feet from the right of way of South Central and 35 feet south of the parking lot entrance. The proposed non-illuminated post and panel sign is 5 feet tall, 4 feet wide, with a total sign face of 8 square feet. The sign will be located 20 feet north of the Roddus Avenue entrance and 10 feet from the right of way of Roddus. Chapter 24 of City of Marshfield Sign Code, it only permits 1 freestanding sign per parcel. An alternative sign permit may be granted if the proposed signage does not completely meet the provisions of the code, and it allows flexibility for unique parcels and development. All 3 proposed signs meet size and dimensional requirements for Chapter 24, with the exception of there being 2 freestanding signs. This parcel is a through lot, and it does have entrances on 2 different road frontages. Having a sign at each entrance will aid in traffic flow, and on this parcel, it just makes sense. But staff recommendation is to approve the alternative sign permit request by Stratford Sign Company to allow for 2 freestanding signs on the parcel located 1900 South Central Avenue, zone CMU community mixed use, with the following conditions. All signage shall meet size and location requirements within Chapter 24 Sign Code of City of Marshfield.
Thank you very much. Is there a motion to approve from the commission? Motion by Mrs. Banks. Is there a second? Second by Mr. Caprillion. Any discussion? Mr. Pinker.
Emmett, do you have a copy of this that you could put up on the screen? Colored map? Okay. Now, for the sign on Roddus Avenue, where is that going to be specifically located?
Yeah, in the packet, the next page.
20 feet.
Okay, I'm curious, where is the entrance on Roddus Avenue, the construction entrance right now?
I don't think they're exactly the same. I think the construction entrance is a little bit north, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay, so then the proposed sign is not going to disturb the present stone monument with the brass or the bronze plaque on it that indicates it's the Hefco pool. You would stand by the railroad engine and then look to the east, you would see that.
Yeah, I guess I don't have that verified, but I think they were gonna keep that if I'm not.
Okay,
mistaken.
that's all I need to know.
We'll double check though, Bill. I don't know that for sure, but I don't think that they were gonna move or they might move that sign, but they'll keep it, I think. I know there were
Okay,
plans.
so this is not going to impinge on that at all.
I can't say that for sure, but I don't think it will.
Okay, fine.
Josh?
Oh, Justin's on here, right?
Yeah, I'm on the phone.
Okay, Justin's on the phone.
Can
now.
you guys hear me okay?
Yeah.
Bill, that sign was taken down and we preserved the plaque and we're going to use it for historical references inside the facility itself and write up a little history of the utilities and the HEFCO pool and all of that at a later point. So that sign has been taken down and preserved.
Thank you very much.
Any further questions from the commission? All right, seeing none, roll call vote, please.
Rosendich,
Yes.
Caprillion, Wood, Pinker, Banks, and Mayor McManus.
Yes. Item 13, review of items under Wisconsin statute, chapter 62.235. Request to review and report on the right-of-way dedication of a portion of land along western side of North Lincoln Avenue, north of Ives Street for an exterritorial certified survey map by Dan Schmidt in the town of Lincoln. Presenter Josh Miller.
Thank you, Mayor. So Wisconsin statute 6223 provides some direction as to what items should be brought before the Plan Commission. Historically, you know, there's been right-of-way dedication and it's gone to the council at times. And us knowing this now and reading what's in the statutes, it's appropriate for the Plan Commission to review it and make a you know, provide feedback to the council before it's finalized. Typically, in the past, we've had our subdivision code requires that there's a certain dedication of land when a certified survey map or a land division takes place along a right-of-way that doesn't have enough width. So, for example, a local road is a 60-foot wide right-of-way. A minor collector, which this is on Lincoln Avenue, is an 80-foot wide right-of-way. And so right now we only have 66 feet. And so usually we take 7 feet from either side, so we don't get it all from one side, so it's kind of uniform, 7 feet. So there's a 40-foot wide from the center line on either side of it. So this is the west side of Lincoln Avenue. It's an extraterritorial plat, so it's outside the city, but they submitted it to us. Upon our review, we said, you know what, the city, 7 more feet should be dedicated for public right-of-way for future widening of Lincoln Avenue if it's needed. Now, there's no plans for widening. This does not trigger any requirement for us to widen the road. I've included 2 maps kind of showing you the section that we're looking at. This is Lincoln Avenue, probably about a quarter mile south of the viaduct. This is Ives Street at the corner of Lincoln and Ives. And this is Amber Drive, so this is the town of Lincoln in here. What we're looking at here is really a 7-foot wide strip of land that would be in the town of Lincoln right now. But we would be, so there's a couple steps that would have to happen before the city could take it on. This measurement is would dedicate it to the public, but the city would have to annex it and then would have to add it to the official map. As you can see further south here, the right-of-way width right now from the center line is 33 feet on either side of Lincoln Avenue. We want to have 80 feet, or because that road should be wider. It's a heavier trafficked road, and so we want to make sure that we have the adequate right-of-way. And we're working on updating our subdivision code and working on updating our zoning code to accommodate some of these things, and making it a little more efficient. But in the future, these would be coming to the Plan Commission for review. And so this is, again, this is an extraterritorial plat. We're just, at this point, the commission's charge is for report and consideration. So there's no, approval process with the Plan Commission, but we were taking this to you guys. It'll be probably months before we get it to the council for an annexation and that, but wanted to see if there's any comments or concerns and just kind of give you a heads up about, starting in 2021, we're looking at trying to, these 6223 things you're going to see more and more on.
All right, comments from the commission, please, Mr.
I just have one
Rosenberg.
question. We're only going to Ives. I mean, Lincoln is all the way to, it's the road is the same width all the way through, isn't it? All the way to Adler?
I think it varies a little bit, but we only have the ability to acquire property where the subdivision takes place. So if you can see on the certified survey map, it only goes to the north line of Ives. So we can only take that. We can't get additional right of way unless, and we can do this through the subdivision ordinance. If we were to do it proactively, we'd have to probably pay for it.
Okay.
So this we get as probably just a free dedication. The subdivider's okay with it, the town of Lincoln. They're going to review it at their meeting next month, but the subdividers seem to, or the county is who we've been working with on this because they have the review, but they seem to think that everybody's on board with this. And pretty simple process, but we like I said, we'll be going over more of these. it's required by code that they dedicate it to us, so it seems kind of odd that this would still have to be reviewed, but we're still working with the city attorney on how the nuances of 6223, because it's kind of goofy. So.
Anything further from the commission? All right, seeing nothing. All right, Josh, thank you. Item 14, any items for future agendas? No. Item 15, how about any staff updates?
We've been plugging along with our building permit software, Evolve. That is, right now, we got released on January 1st, and we haven't done a lot of public information on it because we knew there'd be some hiccups, and there have been. And so we're ironing those out. Once we get kind of a more streamlined process, we'll get that. It'll be really, we believe it'll be really a nice feature to allow the citizens to like self-serve and get their permits online, be able to pay online. Not that we don't love to see the citizens come into the city hall, but they can't right now anyway. So it really would make it a lot more efficient to be able to take out a building permit. And we'll be doing some kind of training on that. They've got some demos for how to do that. So it is rolled out, but it's quirky right now. So we're just trying to smooth out those things. So kind of watch for that in the coming months. So.
All right. Anything else? Nope. All right. How about a motion to adjourn? Motion by Mr. Rosendich, second by Mr. Wood. Thank you all very much. We are adjourned.